Explain to me the big picture of affordable housing in the state of Massachusetts.
Sure, thanks, Byron. Cedac was created, legislation filed by then State Rep. Mel King to provide a resource for community development organizations, nonprofits who are trying to improve their communities through a range of housing and economic development programs. And almost from the start, Cedac, among other roles, started focusing on our existing stock of affordable housing that's owned by private owners but faces certain threats. And
when you talk about the threats, now these many of these housing units, these apartment buildings were built, what, 40 years ago?
That's exactly right. They were built under federal and state financing programs by private developers, and the agreements provided that the owners would maintain the affordability for the 40-year term of these mortgages. And we're now running up against the end of those mortgage terms.
And what is the concern? What is the concern about what could happen?
Well, at that point, at year 40, owners have a choice to make. They can continue to keep these buildings affordable by taking advantage of some incentives that are offered by the federal and state government, or they could make a decision to convert these buildings to market rate housing. Many of these buildings are now in neighborhoods that have evolved over time and are in very hot markets that could command serious market rents.
And Gene Padot, let me get you in here. When we talk about affordable housing, we're talking about what kind of rent are we talking about?
The average affordable rent in Boston is probably, and subsidized housing is probably $700 a month, well below the market rate for housing.
So when these mortgages come due, or when these mortgages are paid off and the owners decide to convert, I mean, potentially what could happen to these rents?
Yeah, so in high-cost areas like Boston, obviously finding a decent, safe, and affordable place to live is a huge challenge for all of our families. And so when we have subsidized housing where the government is helping to pay part of that market rent, it allows families to live in communities like Boston. And so when the subsidies go away, that money goes back to the federal government in Washington, doesn't help subsidize their rent. They then are subject to the market, and it's a struggle.
Bill Bronner, we were talking about a study that was done. You're starting to see what is going to be happening to some of these buildings. Talk to me about some of the things that the signals that you're getting.
40 years ago, these owners signed agreements that they would keep the property affordable for the 40-year term of the mortgage. Well, that seemed like a very long time back in 1970, but now the 40 years is up. And so we took a look at the first 19 projects, about 3,800 apartments, that have reached the end of the 40th year to see what happened. And unfortunately, the news isn't very good. We lost about 55% of those units as affordable housing. Now, I don't want to say that all the families were placed on the street. That's not the case. But we lost the units as affordable housing.
What happened to them? What did they become? Condos or what?
Most of them went market rental. Right. So instead of having a restriction that folks up to a certain income level can live there, now anyone can live there.
So those rents went from what to what?
Typically, as Gene said, $600–700 a month, and in the Boston metro area, they probably doubled. Other parts of the state, maybe not quite so much.
So the folks who live there, what happened to these folks? They either had to come up with the extra money or look for another place to live?
It varies. In many cases, the tenants were protected by either state or federal rules. Other cases, it's been a bit of a struggle for them.
What are you doing to keep some of these units affordable so people who aren't millionaires can live in the city of Boston and other communities?
Well, Massachusetts is very fortunate. We've got a very good infrastructure to try and address this. Cedac, along with our partners at the state in the Department of Housing and Community Development, were selected by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation as one of the 10 most innovative state or local jurisdictions in this area of affordable housing preservation. And they have provided us with some philanthropic resources that have allowed us to set up an initiative to deal with this. And the initiative has several pieces. One is we've got a preservation loan fund that's set up with $150 million that we can provide financing to groups like Madison Park who are trying to acquire these buildings to preserve them. We've got something called an early warning system. Cedac manages a database of all of these properties around the state, and so that we can focus on which properties are coming up in the next couple years and come up with strategies for them. And finally, we convene an interagency working group of all the state agencies dealing with this, as well as our federal partners at HUD and our local partners such as the City of Boston, to make sure we're all working in the same direction to prioritize these important projects.
We have a new law passed in 2009 here in Massachusetts that is called Chapter 40T, and the most important part of that law gives the state a right of first refusal. So if an owner is selling a building, the state can match that purchase price and keep it as affordable housing. Now, the state itself probably wouldn't want to buy it. They would probably designate a group like Gene's to do it. But the main point is that the project could stay as affordable housing instead of going to market in that situation.
Well, how optimistic are you feeling about the future of affordable housing? Is it something that's on the upswing? Is it something that's...
I mean, it's one of those issues that came on the table. With the whole foreclosure crisis, housing is now a national issue. I think to bring it down to more of a people issue, the individual's stability of finding housing is very important to people's children's school and education, important to their health and medical welfare, and so all these issues are related to having a safe and affordable home.
Okay, and we'll leave it right there. Gene and Roger and Bill, thanks for coming in, and let us know, keep us informed on what's happening with the battle to preserve affordable housing in Massachusetts.